Well, good morning, Cheryl. Great to be with you on this podcast this morning. How are you?
Thank you, Doug. I'm great, and thank you for including me. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Wonderful. Well, let's jump in then. As you're aware, the most recent article at our Extraordinary CEO blog talks about the erroneous assumption, and it's really an insidious foe of the board CEO partnership, that governing is just very simply policy making. And I hear that a lot in my work when I'm interviewing board members. Before retreats, I always ask, well, tell me about governing. And very often they'll say, well, you know, there's not a lot to say. It's making policies. And that's it in a nutshell. Now, I suppose you hear that too every so often.
You know what? With some organizations, I do. With some, I think they understand how to use their board beyond that capacity.
Good. And, you know, the problem with the assumption that governing is just very simply policymaking is that in reality, governing is a very complex set of decision-making processes. It goes way beyond policies, which, as you know, are basically rules that govern what we do as an organization. When you got a few rules, that's basically in the book, and so I figure maybe 5-6% of what a board does is, strictly speaking, policy making. And if you want a really strong board CEO relationship, you've got to pay a lot of attention to processes for engaging board members in shaping their governing decisions so they feel like real owners. And they won't feel like owners, of course, if they haven't played some creative and meaningful role in getting the decisions made, like adopting an annual budget or set of strategic goals or whatever. So I'd be interested in your take on that. Why don't you tell us a bit about your experience?
Yeah, as I look at the industry, I believe that many organizations had their boards helping with the tactical and things that needed to be done because they didn't have the staff to help in that capacity. And as a result, moving that culture when the staff comes into play is where the big challenge comes. So I think there's this pendulum that happens when an organization has had a board which is very tactical, and then the staff comes in and they need to determine what they are doing versus what the board is doing. That's where sometimes I see that swing occurring to, you know, this is my role and this is your role, and so you're policy and I'm operations. Where really, in the best practice, what they would do is really look at all the various things that are going on and start to figure out what should the staff be doing, what should the board be doing, what should members only be doing, what should committees be doing. But that's very gutsy almost. There needs to be some courage to lead that whole process.
So what you're saying, Cheryl, is that you can't just lecture a board and say there's a firewall between your policy making and my executive work.
But I'm also saying, Doug, that I think it happens when the board is a little too tactical for the staff. And so the staff is who I believe normally leads that effort to say policy making only because they don't want them redoing their work.
Yeah, they don't want what some people call micromanagement.
Right. Yeah. So,
work.
You know, if you've already decided where the golf tournament is going to be, you don't want someone coming back and saying, oh, you picked the wrong place.
Well, and actually, that's what you mean by tactical, isn't it? The boards get involved in planning conferences and that kind of thing.
Well, in fact, I can remember when I first came on to MSAE, it was just me. I needed the board to help me with tactical things. I went to the board to say, I need your help selling ads in the directory. And some of them looked at me and said that I didn't get on the board to do this. And others said, we understand that you need this now. And as a result, some went out and did it. We made our ad sales. I was able then to hire someone to help do ad sales for us.
So there's
But that is tactical, is the actual doing.
and actually early in an association's life, a nonprofit's life, that might be very essential when you don't have staff, right? That's what
Right.
you're saying.
Well, that's it. I was brand new. I did not have anyone else to help me. I needed their clout. It's different when the executive director of a large statewide organization is calling saying, hey, will you take out an ad, versus the new, I hadn't even been here 5 months. The new CEO is calling saying we need an ad. But I only needed to do it that first year.
Okay.
Yes. But,
And then you had to do some re-education of the board to get them out of that.
Yeah, well, that's what I think doesn't always occur,
Right.
is that we really fully understand that you're going to need different things from your board at different times. And the one thing, I will tell you, I am so blessed that I get to work for a board. I find it an honor to have 16 people that I can call on that will help me and will help the organization, and that they really care about the organization almost as much as I do, or as more than I do sometimes. And it's that collective thought process that's coming to the table.
Yeah.
So, yes, they are to make policy, but in my opinion, they are to represent the owners, the members, to make sure that the organization is doing what we should do.
And let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, Cheryl, you are one of the most board-savvy CEOs
I keep working on it.
I've ever worked with, as well as being an extraordinary CEO in terms of the difference you've made through your leadership. Would you share a couple of examples of ways you've involved your board members in helping to shape key governing decisions like adopting the annual budget or strategic goals or developing growth targets or, any of the work of governing? How have you engaged board members? What techniques have you used so they feel like they really own what they're doing? They're not just an audience for finished staff work. And you can also talk about things you've seen other CEOs do, but give us a few examples.
Okay. Well, I'll start with right from the beginning on who comes on your board. I really like the diversity that we've put, and I've learned this from others. In fact, I know that there are some groups that even do a better job of really looking at who's coming into the industry, who are the thought leaders, and they really make sure they're getting those thought leaders on the board. So they're accommodating those individuals by explaining that there will be diversity and that they recognize the perspectives that they're able to bring to the table. So I think that's one of the key things, is really making sure that you have the best and the brightest, and in different areas. So we just had our Leadership Identification and Development Committee meeting this week. We only have 6 spots on the board. 3 are being reelected. And so when we looked at the 3 new coming on, we really looked at what perspectives do we need at this board table that we don't already have, that will give us insights into what we're doing. And so I think that's really important, that people understand they weren't just brought on the board because, you're the biggest contributor, or you've attended the most meetings, or you're always involved in the committees. It's really looking at what their perspectives are, what their connections are, and what their knowledge is, and what they can bring to the table.
So you not only believe in diversity, you believe your board should be involved in promoting that diversity.
Absolutely.
Shaping the board's composition. Excellent. Well, give us some other examples.
Well, then the next thing is it's really working on their scope of work. What do you need that board to do that you cannot do on your own? You don't need them to redo your work. So part of it is the questions that the CSE is asking. In fact, I had a great conversation with one of my colleagues not too long ago about the role of the CSE in supporting a strategic board. So it is to make sure that they have the information that they need so that they can have really strategic conversations about what is the organization going to do. Where I see the line is that if I allow the board to work on goals and objectives, so that's the what. Generally, what the what, it would be a goal, and the specific what is the objective. Mm-hmm. And then staff with committees will work on the strategy and the tactics, and that's the how. The strategy would be a general how, and the tactic would be a specific how. One of the things our board discussed a couple years ago, which is just coming to fruition and I'm excited about, is that our board decided that they could see the vision that associations will be the curators of knowledge within each industry or profession that we represent. They will, in essence, be the libraries. They will have the classes. They will have the content. They will link to external content, but they will be the curators of what is relevant and reliable. And right now you can go into Google and you can get anything. From any search engine, you know what, there's no curation of that. And so we've been working on how can we help our members be prepared for that. But that's been done at the committee and the staff level. They really saw the what. Associations will be the curators of knowledge for the industry and the profession. Once they started to have that view, then they could talk about specifically that the MSAE will help our members with that challenge. Specifically, we're going to make it that we're offering affordable solutions, and we're giving them the path for how to do that. Now, when it gets to the how, staff and committees, I go back to the board sharing with them the progress. If any of those board members are really, really adamant about wanting to get involved in the how, then they work on the committee. So it's asking the board the right questions, and it's giving them the right information so that they can have those strategic conversations. And then that falls right into play with making sure that they can help assess where we're allocating our resources. So that's what comes into that whole budget cycle. For me, I always work in a cycle where the board is doing an annual strategic thinking or strategic planning conversation. I'm usually able to get them for a day or a day and a half, usually in the spring.
A retreat-like event.
Pardon me?
A retreat-like event.
Yes, very much at that high-level conversation. And sometimes what I have them do is either read some information about what I'm seeing is changing in the association world, or we'll go in and we'll look at some stats. So we'll go in and look at some general research about what's happening with the economy, what's happening with social demographics, what's happening in technology, any of those type of things, so that they're able to look at that information and discover how MSAE can help make sure that our members are prepared for those changes.
So what you're saying is you don't just bring a bound strategic plan to the board and say, thumb through it, guys and gals, and let me know whether you have any problems with it. You actually engage the board at the very beginning in brainstorming what appear to be strategic issues and talking about
I need their wisdom in this. I also bring almost all of my staff, all of my team members around the table so that we're all discussing based on what we know and what our experiences are about. But it's allowing them to create and to really look at what would be the things that would provide the most relevance for the members that we represent or the community that we should be representing. So I see them as a great asset, an absolute great asset. And then we have strategic conversations throughout the rest of the year on how are we going to, what are some of the specific objectives that we're going to put in place to be able to make some of these goals happen. And so we sort of flush them out.
So you're really treating your board as a precious resource.
They are a precious resource. Oh, my gosh. And that's it. For me to have the honor of working for a board, the things they bring to light are so beyond me. MSAE is what it is because we have had members take that ownership and say, boy, I need this organization too. I need this organization for. And from those discussions, we've been able to design things to help them have what they need. If I didn't have a board, MSAE would not be nearly as dynamic. Very few of the ideas of the things that we've accomplished over my tenure year are ideas that have come from me. Now, I have great stories on, they came up with this idea and they saw it this way and there was no way it could happen that way. So we had to change it and make it happen a different way, but it still met the goal of what they needed.
So you look at the board and you say, whoa, what an asset, and
yeah,
I've got to capitalize on that asset.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm always looking to make sure I can get a quorum for a meeting. Now, one of our rules of thumb is in fact, I can tell you all the board meetings and the executive committee meetings through July of 17, which means I know board meetings out for more than a full year. So that I can make sure I get those dates on everyone's calendar. Now, there are times where things change, so I have to admit we were to have a board meeting 1st of June, and I heard from enough people that some things have changed and some people couldn't come. I wasn't sure I was going to have a quorum. I wasn't sure I was going to have some of my very, bright people in the room and have that diversity that I needed. So we went back out, and the meeting's been moved to the 10th of June. Okay. So there's nothing, wrong with moving it, but I'm not one who likes to spring meetings on them. And I really listen to them. I talk to them in between board meetings. I will tell you, I had one board member call me maybe 5 times between November, December, and January with an issue that he was experiencing that he was worried about a decision MSAE was making. And he, at one point he said, Cheryl, I'm adamant about this, which means I may have to come off the board. And I was, no, I don't want you to do that. It's more, I'm still trying to get my hands around how do we handle this? What do we do? And fortunately I said that because he hung up and, called me back the next day and he said, Cheryl, this might be an option because I was struggling with the how. But by telling him that, yes, I'm understanding what you're saying about the what, but I'm not getting my hands around how to do it. Once he gave me that little kernel, and I will tell you, it was go meet with an attorney. I will come. Let's bring in the chairman of the board. Let's bring in your staff person. Let's go to not your general counsel, not an attorney that any of us have worked with. Let's go to a different attorney and get a different point of view. Once we did that, that guy gave us a clear roadmap for how to think through what some of our options were. Because we had so many people saying, oh, you have to go this way, you have to go this way, you have to go this way. And by telling this attorney all these different ways, he was able to come up with something that folded all those in and gave us an idea. So there are times with the board I have to tell them I'm struggling with my how, and they may give me the first brick in the yellow brick road.
So you're really hands-on with your board. You're not just sitting back and saying, I need to keep my distance.
Oh, no.
Okay,
no.
Great.
No, not at all. MSAE offers training to our members for their board members, and I invite all of our members, our board members, to come to those with me so that we're continuing to grow as well. Now, I've got the most amazing people on our board. That's an asset to me. Sometimes the biggest asset that MSAE could have. And if I don't realize that and take care of it, then shame on me.
Wonderful. Well, folks, we've been talking with an extraordinarily board-savvy CEO, Cheryl Ronk, President and CEO of the Michigan Society of Association Executives. Thank you, Cheryl, for sharing this time and this wisdom with us, and I wish you a good day.
Thank you, Doug. You too.